done with that. Now, which monument how do you decide what monument you want to play?
Yes. Monuments, and that's one of the tricks of the game again, are having two colors. So you have to choose a monument with the black color because that's where the base structure originated from. But now you have the free choice if you want to put with it the green color, the red color, or the blue color. In this case, let's assume that if the black player, if the potter played the tile because he is the black player, then he will try, of course, to get the black color in there, which he has to do. But then he will not want to give points to the other players. So what he will probably do is he will choose the black-blue combination because that ensures that the scoring which originates continuously from these monuments will not be to the benefit of the other player, which is the archer. And of course, this is actually a masterpiece of a turn because once he put the blue-black monument onto this spot, he has so far only used one of his activities. So, of course, what he immediately will do is, in the second turn, he could then place his blue potter into the kingdom and thereby also occupy the other leadership role in the kingdom which will benefit from the monument.
Exactly.
How do you benefit from the monument? Very simple. At the end of your turn, you look at the kingdoms, and if the leaders are in kingdoms which have monuments of the respective color, you simply score for them. So in this case, having built the monument and having finished your turn, you would then see that the potter has a black leader with the black-colored monument, and he also has, if he moved over, the blue leader with the blue-colored monument, so he would have pick up a black victory point and a blue victory point. And he would do that every turn. So while the placement of an individual tile gives the respective leader one victory point once, being together in a kingdom with a monument gives you a continuous income and a continuous benefit as long as you represent the related leader in that kingdom.
Elegant, purely elegant. I just love the way the colors match up and the strategy you need to pick the right monument and to set this all up properly. It's beautiful. It might be a good idea to talk about conflicts in general. We haven't spent a lot of time on that.
Yes, that's right, and that is a very, very important concept for the game. When we talk about how did the game actually develop and evolve, there will be a lot of background how we arrived at this, but at the moment, and at the final rules, there are two different types of conflicts in the game. One I call the internal conflicts, which are easy ones and more tactical conflicts, and the other ones are the global external conflicts, which we will cover in the next episode. So if we talk a little bit about the internal conflict, we just said in the last episode, it is important to get your leaders onto the board because you cannot score without leaders. And we showed this example on the board in the lower left-hand corner where we looked at the kingdom and where we just built the monument, and then we also put the blue potter into this new location, and you see it in this new location down there with two neighboring temples. It is important that each leader has a temple in his neighborhood. If that is not the case, the leader actually has to be withdrawn from the board because religion was such a strong influence for the structure and for the leadership. So we have the blue potter down there, and the blue potter just moved in because he wanted to take the benefits of the monument. Now, this does not create a conflict because if you look at the kingdom as a whole, there is now a leader of each color in there, and that is fine because we need a priest, and we need a merchant, and we need somebody who looks after the agronomy, and we need a king. Conflicts always arise if there are more than one leader of the same color in one kingdom. So for this purpose, I suggest we move the potter into its original position back in the other kingdom far on the upper right-hand corner, where it just came down. We assume the leader didn't come down, and we look at a different example now.
Good.
And what we do now is we move into this space, which is now empty, and next player's turn, let's say it is the green lion, it's the lion's turn, and the lion player decides to put his green lion there. Now the situation is very different because now we suddenly have a kingdom where there are two leaders in there who want to be the merchant. Merchant is the color green. And this causes an internal conflict because there's an internal challenge between these two leaders. Now, as already just explained, the positions within a kingdom are derived from, are God-given in a way. So they are derived from the temples around the leaders. So what you do when such a conflict arises is you look at the temples which are in the immediate neighborhood of the leaders. And you see that the archer with his green merchant has 3 temples in the neighborhood. So he's pretty strong because 4 is the maximum, of course, which you could achieve.
Yes.
And the attacker, which is the lion, who moves just in there, has only got 2 temples in his neighborhood. So far he's weaker. But how we resolve conflicts is that, first of all, the attacker can now play from his hand, because everybody has behind his screen hidden 6 tiles. He can play from his hand additional temples. He doesn't place them on the board, he just places them in front of his screen, so to essentially support this revolution, support this conflict, and support his attack. So if he places, let's say, 2 more temples out in front of him, then he would have the 2 which he is neighbored to on the board, and then he would have another 2 which he just played. So that makes him a strength 4. And after this, it is the defender's turn, and the defender in this case is the old position, so it is the archer's player. And the archer, all he needs to achieve is he needs to come up to the same strength. So if the archer is able and wants to play at least 1 temple from his hand, then he will balance the power and therefore defend the attack and will be the victor out of this conflict. So if the defender has at least as many temples or more, he will be staying in his position. If he has less temples, he will be losing this position. Whoever loses the conflict has to be removed from the board. So if we assume that the green archer was actually successful in at least showing 1 more temple from his hand, then the green archer has defended this situation, and the green lion has to destroy him. And I assume that is now done on the board.
That is.
Now, how is this scored? Well, first of all, there is a future potential because the green archer has defended his situation and therefore is still in this kingdom. But for the immediate resolution of this conflict, the archer scores 1 point. And it is a red point because all internal conflicts are always fought in religion, and that is red. So it's a very simple rule. If you win an internal conflict, you get 1 red point. Doesn't matter how many tiles you played from your hand, doesn't matter how many neighbors you have, you get 1 red point. Easy, fine, and you're there.
Well, it's remarkable to me because it makes so much sense when you think about it. At this time of civilization, a single internal conflict would generally be, it would seem to me, resolved by the church. And that is, in fact, the way these are resolved with red tiles. When we get to external, then it's a whole new ballgame. So we're, at least in this case, 1 red block would be awarded to the green, to the archer dynasty, and that would go to his victory points.
Exactly. So essentially, I would still count the internal conflicts into the more basic tactical scoring opportunities. So if you just summarize what we can do, we can either play a tile and then always the leader of the respective color, doesn't matter to whom the leader belongs, will score 1 point once. Or I can try to get my leaders into kingdoms, as we just saw in this example, where there are monuments, and then I will continuously, always on my turn, score respective points for the leaders who are with the equal-colored monuments. And finally, we have the position, if we defend our leader, then we will get 1 point. Of course, internal conflicts are much less about winning this 1 red point. Internal conflicts are much more about placing leaders.
Oh, so keeping him where he is. Okay.
Getting the right position and making sure that I will have future scoring potential and that I build up my power. This will be very different if we talk about external conflicts, which are global conflicts where there's much more at stake.
And many more points can be scored, I've noticed too. In fact, the game can turn on one external conflict, and
Absolutely.
that'll be a lot of fun going through that. What happens now with the monuments as far as the scoring in that particular instance?
Yeah, I mean, the vital thing why you want to stay on the board is if you have monuments which link to your color, which relate to your color. Because, as we explained, that is a continuous income, and of course that will be the continuous struggle to have the positions in the kingdom where you control monuments. They bring you a lot of income. And in this respect, we are almost making back the loop how we started the whole second episode about the scoring opportunity.
Oh, yeah.
Because on the one side, if you control monuments, you want to keep on scoring to increase your scores. That means if I have a black monument in there, and if I have a black leader in there, like the Potter has, then he will score a black point every turn. So that finally he will come up to 10 or 12 points. And of course, at this point, he knows, looking at his scores, that he will no longer have a problem for the rest of the game in black, because the weakest color will score for him, and black will definitely no longer be his weakest color. However, that does not release the conflict and the struggle about the monuments, because that's, I think, where more or less the single focus of a player, how do I need to score, where is my weakness, changes into a multiplayer focus. Because, of course, what you want to make sure is that none of the opponents gains control of the monument, even if it doesn't hurt your score, but it will definitely boost the other player's score, and of course you want to avoid that. So it is not only looking at your own scores, where is my weakness, but also developing an understanding in the course of the game, where are the other players' weaknesses, and therefore where do I need to make sure through my play, and that is more now the advanced field already, where do I need to make sure through my play that the other players do not get good opportunities to score in their weakest areas, because that's where I need to catch them out, and that's where I need to beat them.